afternoon. Yeah, that you know. Harris is drinking, and yes, I'm thinking, and I'm plotting and scheming.
We are here with Mr. Larry Hankin. His second time on the Harris is Drinkin Again Pubcast, here to promote his new book, That Guy, as well as we're going to recap our last interview, talk about recent life growth and different things going on. Stay tuned. It's going to be an amazing interview once again.
Hey, man, this is Tommy Chung, and you're listening and watching Harris is Drinkin Again. Sounds like a ghetto movie.
What's cracking, y'all? It's Lil Kelpie from the 1503, a.k.a. Pt.2, a.k.a. call me whatever you want, just don't call me broke. And I'm fucking with the Harris is Drinkin Again podcast, one of the first podcasts or platforms to put me on. Y'all better stay following them, watching them. Stay tuned for more shit. Big things happening in the future.
Harry's drinking again.
Now, the man in front of me here, you probably recognize him. You see them on this channel as well as countless others. I was sitting here before we started this once again, and I'm on the movie database, and I stopped counting at 104 credited titles that you had been in. I mean,
Well, what I've heard is, because I don't follow me, I get all my information from podcasters about me. But I hear that it's like 204. That's what they tell me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, well, I don't count them. I don't know. So.
That is amazing.
But that's what I've been told. Yeah.
And you're just still going on with this thing. I mean, obviously you still have the drive, the juice. You still have this passion in you to just continue to make films at this point. Is it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wrote a book, so now I'm writing another book. So now I'm a writer now. So I just go from one thing to another, and then I just do it, and then I go on to something else as opposed to just doing another one. I don't do the second thing. I always do one thing, and then I go on to something totally different. I'll be a stand-up comedian, and then I'll be an improviser. Then I'll be a TV guy. Then I'll be a movie guy. Then I'll be a writer. I mean, I can't follow me. I gave up. I just go from one to the other. So now I'm writing books, and finish that, I'll do something else. It's not. I don't think I'm doing it on purpose. It's just that's how I roll.
Your life path. So I think a lot of us are trying to fall into that. I know I am. I'm just trying to get to that point where you almost let your interests and your passion lead you through life, and wake up happy and be like, hey, I want to do this today, or and find a way to.
As long as I can pay the rent.
Yes, absolutely. Now I see here, That Guy, a cautionary memoir. It was released February 27th of this year, 2023. Now this is your second book. Talk a little bit about this memoir and how it differs from the first one, and then sort of your impression of the book since it's been out.
Well, it's actually it's my third book. I did a book up in San Francisco of just adult, no, not even adult, just fairy tales, but I just updated them. That's right. So modern fairy tale. That's what they are. They're modern fairy tales with kind of a hip hop flavor to them, or point of view to them, and an outsider's point of view. So that was my first book. That was up in San Francisco. I published that. Then the second one was what is it called? The Loopholes Dossier. And that was more fairy tales and a couple of other satires. I write funny things. Now this one is real. This one is like a memoir. It's my time in show business as a performer. It started when I graduated college. I was even in a couple of college shows, but just because my best friend at the time was Carl Gottlieb, who wrote all the Jaws movies. We went to Syracuse at the same time, and we just sort of hooked up. And he got me over to. He was in the drama department, so that's kind of where I got my interest in drama. I got into a couple of plays there. I was in industrial designs. I'm a painter. See, these are my paintings up there. So I wrote this because I wanted to do something real to see. Well, I thought I was going to forget all these things that happened to me along the way. So I thought I'd better write them down. And so that's how the book started. And that's what the book is about. It's about my stand-up, graduating college, stand-up, improv, Second City, the Committee, and then coming down to Hollywood here where I live now. And getting into television and movies. And then the money was so good. That's why I stayed. I mean, I never want to be an actor really, but the money is just incredible. And I could do it. That's the thing. I mean, I was able to pretend to be an actor, pretend to be a professional actor. So I got away with it, but I never was driven. I was just, go to an audition, you get the job, and then you go do it, and you go home. But I would use the money to make my little movies. That's what I'm about. Yeah. So I would make these little movies, and that's how I got into writing. You have to write the script, and then you have to film it, and you got all your friends to do it. And so, I was getting into writing at the time, being an actor and making little movies in my off time. There's a lot of off time when you're an actor in between gigs, man. So you gotta have something to do while you're waiting for your next job. So I made little movies, and that's how I got into writing screenplays and stuff. And then one day, about 2 years ago, I thought, let me try the whole thing. Let me try just a book. And that's what I did. I recorded it. I have a hint for anybody who wants to write a book. Don't write it, record it. Tell your story into a microphone, and then they have these apps. Microsoft has this app where you can put it in there, and it'll type it out. It takes words, and it takes speech, and it types it out. So that's what I did. It typed it out, and then I worked on that. That became the book. I would, edit
That's
that.
Brilliant. Make drafts and different things.
Yeah.
Do you think us pubcasters? I'm trying to go left and coin the term pubcast, because this is Harris's Drinking Again. But
okay.
But for general terms, do you think us podcasters? I mean, I've been doing this will be my 66th show in a row tomorrow, so consistency is really big. And on our Thursday night show, I speak a lot about my personal life and different things that happen to me. You think is that almost kind of like what we're doing, and then maybe go back through those?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's what I did. I mean, literally, that's what I did to do the book. You are recording this because it's your business, it's your gig, so you're recording them. I had to call somebody like you, a podcaster, after the show. I mean, we talked about it. And I said, how about if we meet every Saturday for an hour? And it turns out, I didn't know this. He told me this, that iPhones have really good voice recording mechanisms in them, really high end. So he said, if we do it by phone, he had a studio and I had an iPhone. So he said, well, I should call him once a week on Saturday for an hour, and he would record these stories that I had that were I was gathering. And also I had done another 8 hours of just podcasting, where in other words, you're recording this, right? Okay. Yeah. So what I did was I called a podcaster and I said, you recorded this. Can I have well, I guess he put it on the air, but I said, can I use it? So he said, yeah. I said, I just want the voice. I just want the recording. I'm writing a book. So I used that as a reference point. And then it's because I was doing podcasts, so everybody was recording these stories that I would tell over and over and over again. I thought, wait a minute, these are great stories because people are calling me and I'm doing them and they seem to be going over. I should actually write these down. So I recorded them. I called one or two podcasters to get, one if I thought was really cool recording. And I put it all in the book and I thought, okay, now I can forget that. I don't have to keep on remembering them. It's in a book. So now if I want to tell a story, sometimes I'll check the book to see if I got it right. Because, it's now like a year or two since I wrote the book. That's the other thing about writing a book. The lag time is immense. 2 years. It's like making a movie. I mean, you write it, which takes you about anywhere from 6 months to a year. Average. It can take you more if you're just doing it when you can. But if you write it every day, it takes 6 months to a year to write a book. About 300, 350 pages, something like that. And you write it. Okay, so that takes 6 months to a year. Then you got to get a publisher. I mean, you can publish it yourself, but it's not the same. There's two different worlds. It's like FM radio and AM radio, but even worse. I mean, it's more distant between publishing it yourself and getting a publisher.
You get you get that reach with the publisher, obviously, and the ability.
Well, yeah, and respect, and people will pick up the phone or answer it. If you say, like I was going on yesterday, I was going on the internet looking for reviewers. I wanted to get my book reviewed because the publisher doesn't supply that. You have to do that yourself. Well, some publishers do, but mine doesn't. So I was looking through, and some of them say, if you publish this yourself, don't bother sending anything in. I mean, it's just like out front. They just don't bother. If it's not, by a publisher, forget it. We don't want to know you. Oh, wow, man. And then once you get the publisher, and that took me a year. So right away, that's a year and 6 months. 6 months to write it, a year to get somebody to say, yeah, I'll publish it. And then there's another 3 months to a year to get it out there once you get a publisher. So it's like 2 years easy, 2.5 years. Wow, man. And I got published right away. Well, right away. A year and a half. And that was because I had a little juice. I had a little fame, because I'm an actor and I was on all these shows. So the publisher thought, well, that's like a pre-sale kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They already know his name. So I had a little in. But, it didn't help that much. I mean, I still have to go out there and, talk about the book and sell it and, hand out cards and
absolutely
commercials,
And I'm going to have, of course, all the links. I'm a little more better on the YouTube and stuff. So I'm going to put the link to your Amazon and I believe the reallarryhankin.com is your official website. Right. Yeah. Okay.
So, and you can get the book, by the way, on Amazon.com. I mean, it's for sale there, and a lot of other outlets. But Amazon.com is just easy to remember.
Absolutely, I'll put those links in there for sure and everything. Do you have any, plans to get back on stage or do any sort of promo runs this year, or have you been doing? Well, I'm doing a lot of podcasts because it turns out you guys and girls who are running these podcasts, Pubcasts, that's the way to sell books. I mean, I've been asking around, like, what's the best way to, what's the best bang for my buck? Yeah. That's and they go, well, no, podcasts are the way to get the word out. That's like, so what about advertising or newspapers or, and they go, no, podcasts. Nowadays, podcasts is the way you want to sell something, podcasts. Anything on the internet, so I've been doing a lot of podcasts. When that's through and my book becomes a bestseller and the money comes rolling in, then I'm going to probably
do one of two things. I'm either going to finish writing the second book and have 2 books out there, so I can I can buy stuff, just stuff. It doesn't matter what. You just keep the economy going, and then maybe I will make some more films, or I already have a gig for a movie in September, so I'll be going back to acting, but only for friends. Adam Sandler, I generally put him down in my interviews when they ask me, "Oh, you work with Adam Sandler. What's he like?" And I would be kind of negative, but he's got the right idea. He makes movies with friends, so nobody says, "Hey, this is bad writing. This is good writing." Hey, it doesn't matter, man. I'm working with my friends. Get out of here. We just make movies, and a lot of kids go to see his movies. So he's like, Charlie Chaplin in this town now. He's that big. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's Adam Sandler. So I thought he's got the right idea. He just, makes the movies that he wants to make when he wants to make it. And then he works with other films, and he's actually quite a good actor. Yeah. When he was working for other people, like, what was it? The Gems, Uncut Gems was his last movie. He's got another one out now where he worked for somebody else. And I saw it, and he was really great. He's a good actor. But I can't watch his stuff. I can't watch that. But I mean, he knows his audience. They love it. They eat that stuff up. So the answer to my question is, I'll either take this book that I'm writing now, That Guy, which we're talking about, and I'll put it on a stage and just, do an hour show of telling the stories that are in the book and then selling the book, or just go back to acting, but with friends and making my own movies and stuff like that. I'll see. I love the stage. I love playing to a real audience. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like it, man. Yeah. Especially if you can do it.
If I can ask you, like, I think we spoke on this last time you were on the show, and I've asked a few other people, but you think if you would have found that money, maybe, or, had that big payday, because to us, the more common folk, right? I'm sure, you consider yourself just a pretty regular gentleman. But then the people on the street, oh, that's Larry, you're in movies, you're in TV. So there's this persona behind it. And some people might be okay with that level of fame or that success to them. And then you're in the field where you're speaking of Adam Sandler's and the Denzels, Tom Cruises, whoever, all these comedy guys, legends, the Eddie Murphys. But do you think if you would have struck that payday at some point in your career, it would have like changed you or changed your perception in some way? Like you would have moved away from Hollywood and then purchased?
No, because I mean, I see where you're going with it, but not really, because I never had the fire in the belly. You got to have that, man. You can't just, hey, I think I'll be a star or an actor or famous or a politician or even a barber. I mean, if Vidal Sassoon, he's a barber, man. He's got schools all over the world. So it doesn't matter. Vidal Sassoon, Clint Eastwood, Adam Sandler, they have fire in their belly, all the people that you just mentioned. I don't have that. I don't care. That song, I'm going out of my penthouse. I'm going back to my plow. That I know some famous singer sang that song, and one of the lines in it was, giving up my penthouse. I'm going back to my plow. And I'm starting to see that in Hollywood. A lot of actors, famous actors, big time actors, they're tired of it, man. And I just never was attracted to it. So if I made a lot of money, I would buy a house. Yes, I would. I would buy a house because I'd like to live in a house. I grew up in a house, a home. I live in an apartment now, But that would be the only thing. But I mean, these are not my people. My people are my friends, like Adam Sandler. You know, he works with his friends. His friends happen to be funny people. I understand that. You're sort of attracted to what you do, people you do like. So, but no, I don't care, man. And so if you read the book, you'll see. I even say it in the book. You know, hey, man, I don't care. And that's such a gift of freedom, you know, to be able to say no.
Yeah.
I was told that by my agent, my acting agent, when finally I got to Hollywood. In the beginning, because I did not act, my first movie really was my first movie acting job in Hollywood was Escape from Alcatraz. And the reason that I was hired, I auditioned in that they called me in to audition. So you go there. But I didn't read anything. I didn't audition. The director, Don Siegel, just talked to me. And because it wasn't an audition and I had auditioned at other places, you know, and didn't get the job, I was just beginning. I was an improviser and I was kind of over the top. I was a little too big to be an actor. My presentation was stage, you know. Got to reach the seats in the back. No, acting is no acting. Be real. So he was talking to me, and he saw that I wasn't an actor. That it wouldn't do, because he said, "Okay, finally." We were talking, and I just wanted to get out of there because this was going nowhere. They said go there to audition, and all he was doing was talking and saying, "What part do you want to play?" And I didn't read the script, so I didn't know what he was talking about. And I would let him know that in no uncertain terms. Because I didn't have the fire in the belly. I didn't watch myself. I didn't try to be good and, you know, further the plot and all that stuff. I just said, you know, what's going on, man? Nobody's telling me anything. You're asking me? I mean, anyway, and I had the attitude of what I'm doing now. I mean, I was going, look, they said you would tell me what the part was that I was going to audition when I got here. And now you're asking me what part I want to play? I don't know, man. Nobody's telling me anything. I mean, I was going on like that. You know, I mean, that's like, whoa, are you here to audition or to just holler? So he just, you know, he calmed me down. He was very patient with me. That was the other thing. And that threw me off because, you know, I was figuring, well, he said, okay, thank you very much. Get out of here. No, he just kept talking to me. He said, well, you know, now, wait a minute, you know, let's look, let's see what, you know, how would you like to play? And then it got really casual. He got down to my level. He started talking to me like, this is Don Siegel, the director of Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood. He says, okay, there's 2 parts left. Like that was going to make me a better actor. We got 2 parts left, like I'm getting leftovers.
Good.
That, you know, that didn't impress me at all. So he says, well, we got 2 parts left. Now, one was, and he's talking, there was only 3 of us, me, him, and the casting director. And she said, well, there's 2 parts left. Okay, one is the guard that beats up Clint Eastwood in the movie when he's in solitary confinement. Or Charley Butts. He said, those are the 2. Which one do you want to play? And I said, I don't know, man, because I never read this script. I don't. So he said, okay. Well, okay. How would you like to do the guard? And then she said, I don't know. One is we just hired the guard this morning, so that's out. And second of all, I don't really think he can beat up Clint Eastwood. She said that right in front of me. You know, she's sitting right here. Yeah. She's talking to him. And he looks at me and he goes, Larry, you think you can beat up Clint Eastwood? And I thought about it. I really did. No, I don't think so. And he goes, yeah, I don't think so either. All right. So that's out. What's next? Charley Butts? Okay. How about Charley Butts? You want to play Charley Butts? I don't know. I've never read. You know, I calmed myself down. I said, I don't know. So he said, all right, I'll tell you what. And he gave me a screenplay. He had a screenplay. And he says, turn to page 80. We'll read one page. I'll read with you. You want to go outside and, rehearse? I said, no, I just want to get out of there, man. I wasn't having fun at all. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand. And I was new to this. I mean, I maybe had one other TV part before this to be an actor, a movie actor. So he said, all right, okay, I'll read opposite. So I turned to page 80 and we went blah, 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 blah. And he goes, okay, you got the part. Just like that. And one page. And I just sat there staring at him because they don't tell you that. They never tell you that. I mean, I've been asking other actors all through my acting career. Did they tell? Never. And he told me that. So I just sat there and he thought, and he saw this. And he said, you don't believe me, do you? I said, no, I don't. And he goes, tell you what, go home, sit by the phone, see what happens. Now get out of here. That's exactly what he said.
Wow.
Sit by the phone, now get out of here. And he said it with a smile. He said it with a smile. He didn't say it angrily. He said, now get out of here. I said, okay, I'm going. And I left. And then when I got home, about 10 minutes later, the phone rang. It's my agent say, hey, man, congratulations. You're playing Charley Butts. And then when I went to see the movie, I had co-star billing. And it took me years and I love it. I love the movie. I love what I did. But it took me years to figure out how I got that job with that kind of audition that I just told you. It was, he understood that I wasn't an actor. I really didn't know what was going on. He read that immediately.
Yes.
And he thought that's what he wanted for the sidekick to Clint Eastwood. Just this guy who's not an actor, just a guy who's just there, being real, being himself.
Super authentic.
But hanging around with Clint's character in the prison because he didn't want to get beat up or somebody's girlfriend. So I had that naivete that he needed, that the director needed. That, what's going on? And I fell into that. I hung around with Clint Eastwood 24/7. I mean, well, all the time that we were on the set, I always hung around with him. Just to wipe away the awesomeness. I'm doing all my scenes with Clint Eastwood. And I didn't want that to show. So I just, got used to being around him.
Let it soak in. That shows the vision of Don Siegel and the genius and what goes behind the power of a director, and that they have to be able to see, behind each individual and no.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I didn't know that, and he did. I didn't know what was going on, and he saw that I didn't know what was going on. I was being bothered by it, so I was being real. So if he puts me in a movie, I'll still be real, because I'll be in the prison. Which that's what happened. I mean, I was there for 3 months, and my costume was just, the blue shirt, the jeans, the white socks, and the black shoes. So I was in that costume pretty much all the time, because I didn't shoot a lot, but we had to get on the boats at 7:30 in the morning. That was the only time. You missed that boat, you were fined. And they had to send another boat for you, which pissed off everybody, man. Hey, man, what are you doing? Missed the boat. There's only one other boat, and that was at noon, and that was for the suits from L.A., the producers. Yeah. So that was the boat that they would have to send if the actor, missed the 7:30, 10 boats leaving, all the extras to go to the island. If you missed that, they would send the boat out for you. And one actor did. I think they fired him, is what happened. Yeah, they didn't like that. So I would always go, even if I wasn't shooting that day, I'd always go. And they dug that. I mean, the director kind of saw that. He said, wow, this guy's showing up. He doesn't, because I loved being, I just wanted to be around that movie thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like anything else, you apply yourself. Maybe stay in the shadows, but you're there. They can count on you, and you eventually get your shot to be.
Well, and also he kept on putting me in scenes. because I was there. I was
Right.
just standing next to the camera watching.
Get in
And he
here.
said, Larry, get in the scene. I go, what do you want me to do? It doesn't matter. Get in the scene. Well, why am I in the scene? Because I need another person in the scene. Just get in there, will you? I mean, he would treat me like he was my grandfather, like I was his grandson. He didn't treat me like any of the other actors, where he was very formal and, okay, well, what's your intention here? He would just say, get in the scene, will you? Like when Clint Eastwood, well, no, when Robert's Blossoms cuts off his fingers because the warden doesn't want him to paint anymore as punishment. She said, if I can't paint, I'm going to cut off my hand. So Don Siegel says, get in the shop there, in the prison shop. Larry, get in there. Why? I need some more bodies in there. Get in there. Okay, so I got in there. So then when he cuts the hand off, it wasn't a real hand. So when he cuts his hand off, Don Siegel wanted to go around and get a reaction shot from all the guys in the shop, when you see his hand, oh, wow, the horror, so you go, react. Okay, react. And he cuts his hand off. Okay, Larry cuts his hand off. And I go, ah. And he goes, no, throw up, vomit. Come on, man. So it's like great, thank you. React. I mean, it was just like that. He would just tell me hollering behind the camera. No, throw up. Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. And see, that's the way I like to make movies. Just tumult. Unfortunately, a lot of movies aren't made that way. Just say the words as written, and blah blah blah. So, but it was cool. I really liked doing that movie.
Yeah, improvisation's a big part of, I guess, the actor being able to be. I can see that. I can see why Adam Sandler's a huge success.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's another reason to do it with your friends. You can be relaxed and just, improvise.
Yeah, absolutely. So far this year, other than the book and everything, man, it's obviously warming up there in California, and you got the hopefully, right? It's been a wet winter and everything. What is are you gonna, die in Hollywood? Like, is that, is it almost addicting to the point of something about just the culture, the lifestyle, the people, the ability to have business, right?
No, I mean, I'm here because of the business. I mean, I still want to sell stuff, and I write books. There's people I know here who help me with the writing of the books. If I don't if I don't know, I know who to call here. And if I want to be an actor, all the agents are here. So I'm in the milieu. I still want to work in the entertainment field. And you either live in New York or you live in LA still, although it's spreading out because of the internet. You can live anywhere. My sister lives in Florida. I could move down there. But my friends are here and stuff like that. But no, I don't want to die in Hollywood. No, I mean, I'm not that. Like I say, I'm an entertainer. That's what I do to make a living. So that's why I'm in Hollywood. But no, sooner or later, I got to leave. I'll go live with my sister. And also, New York is just too expensive.
Right.
I mean, whatever I'm making here is a drop in the bucket there. I mean, it's very expensive comparatively.
Dang, that's crazy. Because California, and California is like insanely expensive. I've never been to New York. Couldn't imagine. Since the last time we spoke, I am back. I'm in Reno, Nevada, based now. No state taxes here, so
Yeah, well, great. I remember that.
But it's still, it doesn't make a difference. They have county tax, and I think that's how they get away from not having state tax now. I was at the grocery store the other day and it said Washoe County tax. I was like, what is this?
So that comes into the configuration and the figuring of where you're going to go when and why. And I'm here because I still want sell my jams and jellies, and it's either here in New York, and as much money. Well, now I just get like residuals and Social Securities, which is cool. That's a gift. I didn't know that at the time. Doing all those 204, jobs, acting jobs for the last 40, 50 years. It's now paying off. I don't work at all, but now I get all those residuals. I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
When I started, like Gilligan's Island is the great example. They don't get, that's around the world. That's been on. It's never been off the air ever.
I remember
it started.
Okay.
And they don't get any residuals.
Remember hearing something like that.
Because it was before the union struck to get that. And when I came in, it was the first year. My first job was under the first year of you get residuals. If they show it, you get a piece of what you got paid originally. Not much, but if you get enough things coming in, all the time, every time it's shown, I can pay the rent on this apartment, and I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
And then also I sell stuff and blah, 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 so there's a lot that goes into where you live and why and when you're going to leave it and why.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely put the link to your website, Amazon. I see you got some T-shirts, different merchandise for sale. That's awesome.
Oh, that's on. Oh, yeah, on thereallarryhankin.com is the T-shirts.
Yes.
Or you can just go to tpublic.com. Oh, that's the place that publishes the T-shirts. So tpublic, TEE public.com, or thereallarryhankin.com for the T-shirts, and Amazon.com for the book.
Great. Before we get you out of here, man, I appreciate you so much for coming back on. On my end, if we do this a third time, which will be a freaking blessing, man, definitely I'll have to do Zoom because I don't know what it is with melon, but it's like some of the it's scraggly stuff, but on the back end it'll be amazing interview. But there was points where I and you were breaking up. I don't know if you were.
Oh no, my ears were fine.
Okay, cool. So maybe that's just the video part, the audio. I'm recording at two different places. But last kind of question, because I've been going into the manhood, manosphere kind of conversations these days. Like, how important is it for a man to have like a daily ritual or a daily discipline? And do you have some sort of like thing that just keeps you routine and consistent every day? Whether it's a ritual or a prayer or any sort of an activity?
No, but I'm learning that that's very important. So I'm really trying to nail that down. But my whole life has been not that.
Okay.
No ritual, no routine. Nothing that you could pin me down as something I do every day to just get my head straight. But I find that as I get older, it's becomes more important, to just you're like yes, there is a ritual. Oh yeah, I do have one, and I learned it from a general or something, like a ship's captain. A big deal. Somebody in the Army or Navy. He wrote a book about it, and then somebody interviewed him, and he said this on the air, and I heard it, and I thought, I'm going to try that, and it works. And what he said was, just when you get up in the morning, make your bed. It's just like a simple sentence among a lot of other sentences that he said. I go blah, 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 blah. And then when you get up in the morning, make your bed, and blah, 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 blah. Do all these other things and all these things. And I heard just that. And so I said, I'm going to try that. Now, I would say that was about 5 years ago. I've made my bed every day for the last 5 years. As soon as I got up, I got out of bed. If I got out of bed, turn around, make the bed, and go on about my day. Now, I don't know that it helps me or hinders me. I don't know if it changes anything. But when I get up the next morning, I make my bed. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do. I think what I'm saying is that the ritual thing somehow rejiggles your mind to a straightening kind of mellow, okay, at least we got this down, and it readjusts the rest of your day. I think that's true. It's and that's an Army, Navy, thing, Boy Scout or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's getting your head straight. It's a head straightener, just for a second. You get your, and when you leave the room, and I look back or I walk into the bedroom to get something, and I say, "Hey, my bed's made." Bing! It's just a shot, and you go, "Wow, who would have thought?" Or when you go in the next, at night, hey, my bed's made. That's far out. That's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the deal is with that, but somehow. So I think you got a point about a ritual. Some people, I guess, do with running. They run every morning, or they get on the bicycle. Yeah. Anything to just say. I know it's a centering thing. That's what it is. It's just even if you center your mind just for as long as it takes you to make your bed, or I guess brushing your teeth would be another one, but that's just so normal. I've been doing that all my life. There's certain things. It's not the same thing. It's something that it's like an adult thing, I think, is what it has to be.
Or almost something like you don't necessarily want to do.
Yeah, but you do it, and then it becomes a habit. But it's a centering, and Lord knows my mind needs centering. Let me tell you. I mean, first of all, I'm dyslexic, so that right away, that's a scramble right away, just in front. All my life, so it makes me quirky. Well, when I was growing up, it made me quirky. A lot of kids would make fun of my. You ever hear David Sedaris? He's a writer, got a lot of books out now. No reason you should know him, but David Sedaris writes about that. He's not. He's got about 8 or 9 books out, all about his life. They're all memoirs. Each book is another part of his life. I don't know how he can remember all that stuff. But one of the books, he says, I don't think he used the word quirky, but he said, as a young kid, I was different, kind of quirky. I don't know. I'll use the word quirky. He said I was quirky, and everybody would point it out to me. My parents, my friends. I would do strange things. You like staring a lot, wanting to touch things. That was another thing. That's kind of a dyslexic thing. It's an OCD thing, really, ADHD. But we just wanted to touch things. Just
I know what that was like.
And then also wanting to get involved with something. Just it's like an instinct almost. It's just So that was David Sedaris said, well, that's when I was growing up, and everybody said I was quirky or like a weird kid. And as I grew up, I didn't realize it because dyslexia wasn't kind of named. It was just a mental instability. So it wasn't named until I was like 30. So I didn't know I had dyslexia until I was 30 when they said, oh, if you do this and that and you can't think this way, that's dyslexia. Right. And there's ways to get around it, but it's not curable. You just have to workarounds. So I didn't know that until 30. So I grew up as a weird kid. And then when I discovered it, it was like a great revelation. Oh, that's why I do these things. It's like dyslexia. So memorization is what it affects me. My memorization. That's what. So as the parts got bigger, it took me longer and longer to memorize them. It's an ordering. In other words, I understand everything that's coming in. It's just I can't give it to you back in the same order.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can't do that. So if I memorize something and then I have to say it like a monologue,
Mhm.
after a while, a couple of years ago, I couldn't memorize monologues, an entire page, a soliloquy. I could memorize it. I think I got it.
Yeah.
But then if I had to, it would,
Put it back. Huh?
yeah. So sometimes I would just improvise, and sometimes they would let it go because I got the gist. And sometimes they would say, "Hey, man, you got to memorize this. 10 minutes, Larry, go memorize this." And then I come back and I do it. So I always got it. But after a while, I thought it's just too much trouble. Again, the fire in the belly, I don't have it. There are dyslexic actors out there all through Hollywood. Winkler, Henry Winkler is dyslexic. He fights through it. He wants the part. He will, lock himself in a room until he gets it down, man.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of sweat equity. I understand what he goes through, but he does it, and I won't do it. I mean, when it gets too big,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to Henry Winkler. And look what he did. He's a big star, man. But I would say, well, Henry Winkler does it. Why don't you do it, Larry? I don't care about it, and he does. And I would rather be able to tell these people what I thought instead of pretending and being a good actor because I want to be famous. And no, I don't want to be famous. I want to do the best thing I can under the circumstances given to me.
Mhm.
And I like the way it's working out so far.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's great. I identify with that heavily. I'm a natural rebel and kind of
Yeah,
a system guy. I didn't even think
and
I'd
that is
be on I didn't even think I'd be on YouTube this long just because of some of the conversations
exactly.
and topics and so that's great.
And then there is room in Hollywood for that kind of person like me or you or whoever's out there and whatever quirkiness they have. No, there's a lot of geniuses here inside the wall, inside the Hollywood, I don't know, green zone. I always think of it as a wall, and there's a phone in the middle of this wall. There's a wall, circle wall, and inside it's all quicksand. And in the middle of the quicksand is a phone ringing, and it's for you, and it's a gift.
Ooh, and everyone's
trying to get either over the wall or through the quicksand to get to that phone.
Wow, that is a great analogy. Like I picture.
Well, keep it and use it, because that's all I thought about. While everybody's having fire in the belly, I'm thinking wall, quicksand, get to that phone before it stops ringing. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Hollywood.
Yeah. But I mean, if you can stand the heat, and I can stand the heat of the kitchen, I just don't want to be a chef. I was a chef. I mean, not a chef, an assistant chef. It's got a name for it. Sous chef. I was a sous chef for a while, when I was in high school and college, during the summer you work. And that they were like ship's captains, chefs, high-end chef. I mean, they're crazy, man. They're like, I mean, they're crazy. They're do this, do that. I mean, yeah. So Hollywood was, lemonade compared to that.
All right, man. That's amazing stuff. I'm gonna plug everything. I'm gonna do more for this interview that I did in the past, as far as getting things
thank you very much.
correct, the links, the thumbnail.
But I just want to say one thing. You say that you might want to write a book or about you, and you tell your own stories, the real stories, which is memoir. That's the definition of memoir: is a story, a book that's told only from your point of view, only what you saw. And remember, So you don't have to remember it right because it's a memoir and it's memory. And in a court of law, memory counts as not fact, but memory. So what I'm saying to you is, all your stuff is recorded. You're recording this, either tape or video. So you could write a book real easy because it's your stuff. You're doing it your own stuff. I always have to call the podcaster and say, can I use it? I got to find it. I got to make appointments and stuff. So you can take all your stuff and put it on tape. Well, I think it's on tape because of this. Yeah. And get it typed out with this Microsoft thing, and you got your book. And then you just go over and tweak it, make it readable, not listenable, but readable. There's a difference. And that would be real easy. I mean, that wouldn't take 6 months. That would take a couple of, maybe 2 months, maybe. It's just going over it, because you got to read it.
You know what? Thank you for that gym right there and that layup. And because sometimes I think, who the hell am I? I don't, but just a simple fact of every individual has a story.
You bet.
It doesn't, like you said, memory doesn't count as fact. Simple stuff. I was adopted. Biracial.
But that's interesting. Your adoption is interesting. That right away.
Right. Yes.
In other words, if you wrote, first of all, I think memory is a great coach because the first thing you remember is the stuff that hits you the hardest, where there was an emotional connection. And that's what you remember. Oh, I remember when I was adopted. Yeah, well, I want to read about that because there's an emotional content just by the definition of what you're talking about. I mean, if you say adoption, there's an emotional hit. Could be very subtle, but that's different. So what I did was I used my memory to guide me. What I could remember would be important because I remembered it. There was an emotional content to it. When my father, beat me, I remember that because emotionally I remember that.
Absolutely.
And that's what people want to hear. Or when I had to go rescue my girlfriend from bad times, there's an emotional content to that. People want to hear what they are attracted to, want to read about, go see in a movie, podcast. Is emotional. Is that what you're talking about? I can hear that. Did you hear that? Yeah. Rumbling. Yeah. But anyway, but you have that already because they're your stories. You're telling them from the heart, I would imagine. You seem to be like a sincere person. And that's, so it doesn't matter if you're famous or not. It matters that you're, and that's what good writing is. It turns out that's what people tell me. I never wrote a book before. I mean, these are all the first 2 books that I mentioned were just things I wrote about in my own spare time, never thinking of being a writer. It was just, I had a lot of time in between acting. And so I would sit at the typewriter. That's how long ago it was, typewriter. And I would type out these things and just put it in a drawer, never thinking of selling them. Then when I became famous as an actor, I thought, well, I'll put them into a book. It was just a collection. It wasn't writing. It was a collection. Put it in a book. And I published both of them myself. And they sold a couple, but nothing big deal. But there was no emotional content to them. I just was writing, fairy tales, stories. But then when I wrote the book and I started to, call this podcast and say, why don't you record these? The memories I had about my real life, there was an emotional content to everything because it was my memory. And I remembered the things that had that content. And it turned out when people read my book and called me, like my friends, they said, hey, man, they didn't say, I really loved what you were writing because of the emotional content. Nobody ever said that. What they said was, Larry, you're a really good writer, man. You're a good actor, but you're just as good a writer, man. That's great. I interpreted that as I didn't know how to write. I was just typing, just like I typed the fairy tales. I was just, on my internet. But I was making sure that I wrote what I remembered, with little details of why my father hit me, what the weight of my grandfather was while I carried him, what the weight was. That he was like a little girl. He was so old and he was dying. And he was like a skeleton. It was like I was carrying one of the people from Auschwitz. I swear to God. But that's in the book. But I didn't have to think about that, man. That's a memory that's nailed there. I'll never forget that. Yeah. That's what people want to hear, the emotional content that he was carrying a body that was so light it felt like a little girl, and it was his grandfather. Wow, man. So yeah, you got a head start. A big head start. I had to go look for people to record it and meet every Saturday, and it was
And then what always confused me was the editing part, because I'm like so horrible at I barely know where to put a period and a comma.
Well, okay, I'll give you a hint on that too, because I had to learn this. I had to learn everything that you had to learn. I'm not going to be a teacher, but I mean, when you brought that up, no, what it is I learned this the hard way. I didn't know I was learning it until I did. You know, when you write a book and you're going to get it published, whether you publish it yourself or looking for a publisher, you have to read it for typos. Man, that is the curse of writing, typos. You have to read it with a fine-tooth comb. And the reason is that because you wrote it, you are used to the sentence. You can't find your own typos. You skip over them. It's just natural. It's like it wasn't there. You say, well, I read the whole page. There's no typos in it. And then you give it to a reader who is hired to do that. And they go, there's 5 typos on this page that you said there's none. And you go, oh, right. Yeah, that one. Oh, I skipped that one. So my point being that I had to read my book when it was finished to give it to the publisher to publish. I had to read it minimum of 5 times at different times, not one right after the other. But, you know, in June and in July, then in September, you know, when I would go back and forth. And what happens is if you're just reading it because of the typos, there's certain sections of your writing which is just fucking boring, man. You know, I read this 2 times already, looking for typos. There's no typos on this page, and I'm bored with it already. So I think I'll just rip that page out. I don't need it. In other words, you start to get bored with the stuff that isn't, quote, good writing or interest. It becomes automatic. You know, you just get tired of reading this and other stuff that you write. It's fascinating to you, even though you write it and you wrote it and you know what's coming next. It's just because I'll read it and I go, hey, man, this is good writing. I wasn't thinking about writing when I wrote that, but I was getting, you know, the real picture of the emotion of why my father hit me. I had all that. And it was on the page. So it became good writing. So I've read a lot of books since then, you know, just really good writers, you know, best-selling writers. And they're all different. I'm thinking, well, what makes this page good writing, you know, by Stephen King? Well, I didn't see any difference between that writing and my writing, good or bad. I mean, it's not like, oh, well, I'm writing as good as him. No, I'm thinking, well, he's writing as bad as me. I don't understand. It's just that if it makes sense to the reader, they'll love it. That's all. There's nothing to do with writing. It's what you're putting down as writing. But thank you, man. This is really cool.
No, thank you, man. I definitely appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll continue to be in contact, and I'll let you know when it's officially out.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Harry. You're really cool,
man. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Man.
Bye.
Harry's drinking again. Yo, what's going on, guys? If you like this video, click above. We got 2 more right there, or down there, or somewhere. Hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more content. We got amazing interviews like the one you've just seen or the clip you just seen. I don't know what you watch because I put this behind the end of every video. So stay tuned, hit that like, subscribe. Harry's drinking again. It goes up.